What's up guys? Last month I posted a job on Upwork looking for a Google Ads specialist. And I got over 40 proposals submitted to my job. And so in today's video, I'm gonna review and critique 4 of those proposals for you guys. And in case you don't already know who I am, my name is Nico Hessel and I help freelancers and agencies use Upwork to sign more clients. So with that being said, this is the grading criteria that I'm gonna use for today's video. I'm gonna grade these proposals based on 4 key metrics. Number 1, does it catch my attention? And how are the first 300 characters of their proposal? Number 2, does it have personalization? Number 3, does it have social proof / is it convincing? And number 4 is gonna be their call to action. And I'm gonna grade each of these on a scale of 3. 1 being horrible or not included in their proposal at all. 2 being yes, it's included, but it needs improving. And 3 meaning excellent. So let's dive into proposal number 1. This proposal says, hi, I'm insert name. Reading dozens of submissions on Upwork is not what you wanted to spend your day doing. So I'll try and keep this as brief as I can, with a smiley face. I help drive qualified traffic to your website, turn that traffic into leads, measure which leads turn into sales, report on how much money those sales made you, and use that data to optimize each step of the process, giving you an unfair advantage, a ton of money, and none of the typical marketer BS. 200% money back guarantee, because what I do actually works. No locked in contracts, you can walk away at any time. I include custom landing pages and CRO with my Google Ads management offer, so you don't need to spend thousands on a creative person / team. My system aims to help you scale quickly, predictably, and profitably. I'd love for you to check out my full Upwork profile, as it should give you a solid idea of who I am, my process, and what I can do for you. If you're interested in talking further to see if we're a good fit for each other, let's schedule a call. Best, and then his signature. Now for grading criteria number 1, which is does it catch my attention? Kind of. This isn't perfect, it's not great. There's not really any personalization in the first 300 characters. And on top of that, there's not really any social proof either in the first 300 characters. And those are 2 of the main things that I do look for in the first 300 characters of people's proposals. That being said, he does do something pretty unique, and he starts out with saying reading dozens of submissions on Upwork is not what you wanted to spend your day doing, so I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. So that is pretty unique. I haven't really seen very many people do that, and so I'll give him that, and I would grade this a 2 out of 3 on the scale. Now for number 2, which is personalization, like I just mentioned, he doesn't really have any personalization in the first 300 characters of his proposal, or for that matter, in any of his proposal. Right? He didn't find my first name, he doesn't really reference any information that I posted in my job, and overall, it looks pretty much just like a copy and pasted proposal template. That being said, the structure of it is really solid, so that helps him make up for some of that. But with personalization, I would have to give this a 1. Now in terms of number 3, which is social proof, and how convincing is it, this is very convincing, and he does have a significant amount of social proof in here. You can see when he says 200% money back guarantee because what I do actually works, that is really convincing, right? Not to mention, he also says no locked in contracts and you can walk away at any time. Again, very, very convincing. That being said, I would give this a 2.5 out of 3 on the convincing and social proof scale. Because while it is really convincing, he would really, really benefit from just having some simple social proof in here. Right? If I were him, I would probably reference how many years of experience I have or how much ad spend I've managed. Right? You can see he's guaranteeing a 200% ROI, which makes me think that he's probably has some pretty impressive case studies, right? And so if I were him, I would directly reference those case studies in his proposal. Now for number 4, which is the call to action, he actually has 2 of these in his proposal. The first one being, I'd love for you to check out my full profile on Upwork, as it should give you a solid idea of who I am, my process, and what I can do for you. And the second one is, if you're interested in talking further to see if we're a good fit for each other, let's schedule a call, right? So that's 2 different call to actions, and I don't recommend people do this because oftentimes you're gonna confuse the client who's reading it, and confused people don't buy. Confused people don't take action, right? And so I prefer having one simple call to action, which for him would be the second one. It's just a call to action directing people to send you a message and book a meeting with you. So on the call to action scale, I would have to give this a 2 out of 3, which gives him a grand total of 7.5 out of 12. And while that's not a very good score, I'm guessing that this proposal template actually performs pretty well for him, because what he loses out on by not personalizing it, he makes up for by having a pretty convincing offer, right? And a guarantee and a risk reversal in there. Not to mention, he's formatted his proposal pretty well. He's got good white space, he uses short paragraphs, and it's easy to read. Now on to the next one. Now this one says, "Hi, I saw you need a Google Ads expert for your business. Digital marketing is a special, and your company is dependent on having the right person to increase online visibility. I imagine you're looking for someone who knows how important this is for you. You found the right professional. That's me. With many years of experience, I can get this job done and save the day for you by focusing on paid per-click campaigns and optimizing your website. Here's what I will do next. I will run Google advertising campaigns to target your potential clients, then increase your Google search results. Let's have a chat. What time are you free today or anytime soon? Best," and then his signature. Now in terms of number one, which is did it catch my attention? Well, no, not really. The first 300 characters of this person's proposal are pretty generic and there's really no personalization in there other than the fact that he mentions I want Google Ads. Not to mention there is definitely no social proof, and if you're saying I imagine you're looking for someone who knows how important this is for you, well, that's pretty much a waste of time and means absolutely nothing, right? And so on this scale of 1 to 3, I would have to give this a 1. And in terms of number 2, which is personalization, again, this has little to no personalization in it other than the fact that he references I want Google Ads. Right? Other than that, there's absolutely no personalization. So again, I would have to give this a 1 on the scale out of 3. Now in terms of number 3, which is social proof and how convincing is it? Well, this is not very convincing and there's not really any social proof in it. So he does say that he has many years of experience, but I have no idea what that means. That could mean 5 months, that could mean 25 years. Right? And so if I were this person and I actually did have a bunch of experience, let's say like 3 years or more, I would put the exact number of years that I have experience into this proposal instead of saying just many, right? Because if I say I have a decade of experience running Google Ads, that is a lot more convincing than just saying I have many years of experience running Google Ads, right? They're completely different and it's just a small little tweak that you can make. The other thing you can do is if you've worked with a bunch of clients or even just a bunch of different industries, putting that into your proposal instead of just saying like many years of experience is going to help you out a lot more. And so on the scale of 1 to 3, I would have to give this again a 1. Now for number 4, the call to action, he said, "Let's have a chat. What time are you free today or anytime soon?" And while I'm glad he does have a call to action in here and I'm glad that he only has one of them, this has grammatical mistakes and it doesn't sound very good. Right? And so on this scale, I would give this a 2 because he did include it in his proposal. But again, like I said, it's not very good, doesn't sound good, and it has grammatical mistakes, which brings his total score to 5 out of 12. And if I were this guy, I would definitely focus on personalization, especially in the first 300 characters of your proposal and putting in more specific elements of social proof like we talked about. And if you don't have social proof, if you don't have any case studies, if you don't have any testimonials, if you don't have, any examples of work you've completed, if you don't have any years of experience that's impressive, right? Then that's okay, but you're gonna need to personalize your proposals a lot more, right? If you have no personalization and no social proof, then you're probably gonna have almost no luck getting any responses to your jobs. So if I were this guy, I would implement those things and then you'd probably get a lot more responses. And the next one says, "With my extensive experience and proven track record, I can provide the best practices for building and optimizing your Google campaigns. I possess extensive agency experience managing over 100 accounts within a Google MCC, catering to a diverse industries in B2B and B2C. With an average of 2 to 3 campaigns built and 6 to 7 campaigns optimized daily, I have the hands-on build, edits, and optimization experience you need. Certified proficiency in Google Search Ads, Google Video Ads, Google Display Ads, and AI-powered performance ads certification. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of collaborating directly with Google. These experiences have equipped me with the highest standards for campaign building, auditing, and optimization. I will leverage these insights to build converting campaigns and improve the performance of your existing ones." And then his signature. Now in terms of number 1, which is the first 300 characters of his proposal, and does it catch my attention? Well, yeah. This is pretty good actually. The one thing I would say is if I were him, I would flip the 2 sentences that he starts with. So I would flip number 1 with number 2. The reason being, his first sentence just says, "With my extensive experience and proven track record, I can provide the best practices for building and optimizing your Google campaigns." And the second one says, I possess extensive agency experience managing over 100 accounts within a Google MCC, catering to diverse industries in B2B and B2C. And so that being said, the second sentence is a lot more powerful, right? He directly references the number of accounts and clients that he's optimizing and how he's helping them, and what industries and what types of businesses he's working with. And that's a lot more powerful of a sentence than just saying, I have extensive experience in doing XYZ, right? So if I were this guy, I would probably flip sentence number 1 with sentence number 2. But that's really the only change I have, other than the slight grammatical error that he has in here. And so with that being said, I would give this a 2.5 out of 3. Now in terms of number 2, which is personalization, again, he's done a pretty solid job. I directly referenced in my job post that I wanted this candidate to have B2B and B2C experience running Google Ads. And he directly references that he has extensive experience with that in the first 300 characters of his proposal. So that's a huge added bonus if you can personalize the first 300 characters of your proposal. And so again, I'm gonna give this a 2.5 out of 3 because while he doesn't have a ton of personalization, his proposal is pretty short. And so the percentage of personalization that is in his proposal is larger than other people's, right? And so overall, I'm gonna give this a 2.5 out of 3. Now in terms of number 3, which is how convincing is it and does it have social proof, this again is pretty solid because he does have a lot of social proof in here. For example, he directly references that he's worked with over 100 different companies helping them with their Google Ads. And he references he's worked in a diverse range of industries in both B2B and B2C. Now that is all social proof and it is pretty solid because obviously 100 accounts is a lot. That's a lot of different Google Ad accounts to be managing. And that gives him a lot of credibility. However, there are 3 key points that I do want to make here. Number 1, if he wants to make this even more convincing, he could simply space out the paragraphs in his proposal. Right now, he has things clumped together in a giant big block of text, which is pretty visually unappealing. And some people will click on it and see it, and they'll get confused, they'll get overwhelmed, and they'll click off of it, right? And that is not what we want. So that's the first thing you could do. It could be a really, really simple change, but I guarantee you more people will actually read your proposal and more people are gonna take it seriously because of how visually appealing it is. Now, the second thing I wanna point out is the certification section of his proposal. If you're gonna list your certifications, you need to be a lot more specific with it, right? Don't just say you have a Google search ad certification, because nobody knows what that means, right? Who certified it? Who is the company that provided that certification for you? Are they reputable? Do lots of people have that same certification? Is it easy to get, right? And so including the person or the company that provided you with this certification really truly does matter. And so I would definitely try and be more specific with what kind of certifications you actually have. Now, the third thing that I want to point out is at the end of his proposal, he says that he had an opportunity to collaborate with Google. That being said, that can mean a lot of different things. And me personally, when I read this, I have no idea what that means, right? Because that can mean anything. And so if you were given an opportunity to collaborate with Google's advertising team or something that's impressive, get a lot more specific with what that opportunity looked like. Talk about the program that you collaborated with them on, talk about the initiative you guys worked on, talk about just go into more details in general about what that partnership looked like. Because providing more details is gonna make it more believable. And if that's more believable, then obviously more people are gonna send you a message because that is an awesome thing that you collaborated with Google. And so overall, for the social proof and how convincing is it scale, again, I'm gonna give this a 2.5 out of 3 because it is pretty convincing and it does have some social proof. But like we spoke about, if he makes these 3 simple changes, then he could easily get way more responses and it would be way more convincing. And for this proposal, the call to action piece is pretty simple because he doesn't have one, right? And so that's gonna have to be a 1, which brings his grand total to 8.5 out of 12, which is pretty solid, right? That's a good proposal template. That being said, if he just implements these simple changes that we just reviewed, if he spaces out his proposal a little bit better, if he gets more specific on the certifications and the partnership he did with Google, and then he adds a call to action, this has the potential to be a 12 out of 12 proposal template because he already obviously has a ton of experience with Google Ads. Now, the final proposal that we're gonna review today says, hey there, I saw this gig and I would like to be considered because I believe it is perfect for me. I'm located in New York and I have over 5 years experience generating leads on Google Ads. I've had clients start out with budgets as low as $300 to $500 per month and scaled past $1,000 per day. I've helped new businesses / struggling businesses / businesses that wanted to grow in some of the following categories. And then he lists a bunch of different industries. And then he says, I would love to have a chance to further discuss your business's needs over an initial strategy call, free of charge, of course. Just let me know when works for you and we can hop on a Zoom call here on Upwork. Now for number 1, which is the first 300 characters of his proposal and whether or not it catches my attention, well, yeah, it kind of does, right? It's not spectacular, but this is solid, right? He directly references that I want help with Google Ads, and he says that he has over 5 years of experience with Google Ads, which is solid. And then after that, he goes on to talk about the range of budgets that he has managed for other businesses. He says he started at the low end with $300 per month, at the high end with $1,000 per day. And even just mentioning that very wide range gives him a lot of credibility. And so overall for this, I would give this a 2 out of 3. Now for number 2, which is personalization, this is okay. It's not great though. Really the only personalization that he has in here is referencing that I want Google Ads and that he has experience with those Google Ads. Outside of that, there's really no personalization, so I would give this a 1.5. Now in terms of number 3, which is social proof and how convincing is this, well, he does have a pretty good amount of social proof in here, right? He directly references that he has over 5 years of experience, which is pretty solid, and he references that he has managed budgets that have a very wide range, right? Like which we covered is gonna give him a lot of credibility. Right? That being said, if he wants to make this a lot more convincing, he should probably change the way that he's phrasing how many different industries he's worked in. Because this is a bit strange, to be honest, to have like a list of 20 different industries you've worked in and list them out one by one by one. Now, what I would probably do here is I would probably give a range. So I would say like, I've worked in industries from healthcare to home improvement and from SaaS to e-commerce, right? That way you're giving them a range, you're giving them a little taste of what's to come. And then you could say, I've worked in 50 plus industries, and then give that range that I just talked about, right? And so that's gonna give them the amount of industries and a little taste at the difference and uniqueness in industries that you've worked in. And that way you don't have to make this massive list that looks a little bit strange in your proposal. And like I mentioned with the last proposal that we reviewed, this guy could also benefit from just spacing his proposal out a little bit better. Right? As you can see here, he doesn't really space it out, and it's just this massive clump of words. And then he does, for some reason, separate the call to action with the massive clump of words. That being said, I would just separate it paragraph by paragraph. And then obviously, if he's gonna keep the list in here, that needs to be separated as well. Now, overall, for social proof and how convincing is it, I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 3 because he does have social proof and he has worked in a lot of different industries. That being said, the way he could be phrasing this could be a lot better. So for that reason, it's gonna be a 2 out of 3. Now, in terms of number 4, which is the call to action, I actually really like this one for a couple different reasons. But number 1 being, he frames it as a benefit to the client, right? He directly says, I'd love to hop on a quick call and discuss your needs, right? Which frames it as a benefit to that client, which is really, really solid. And the second reason being, he's pushing for a Zoom call here, which is what I recommend everybody does, right? I have a few clients who have tried to sell like through the Upwork chats, and sometimes it works, but I recommend that people always try and get on a call with their client because that will convert at a much higher percentage. So for that reason, I would give this call to action a 3 out of 3, which brings his grand total to 8.5 out of 12, which is pretty solid. Now, is this as good as the last 8.5 out of 12 that we had? No, I don't think so. But it does have a lot of potential, right? Now, if he just cleans up the formatting and cleans up the way that he's telling people how many industries he's worked in, this does have a lot of potential and could be really, really solid. So with that being said, that's all I've got for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.